will be talking about the Lewis and Clark expedition, or the journey that Lewis and Clark took. So in 1803, President Thomas Jefferson had signed a treaty called the Louisiana Purchase. And what this did was it added this whole new brown area of land to the United States. So we had just purchased all of this land. And so Thomas Jefferson wanted to know what was over there. We didn't know what there was. We knew that the Mississippi River ran through it, but we knew nothing else. It was a complete mystery. So Thomas Jefferson asked his good friend Meriwether Lewis, or his secretary at the time, to help him with this discovery of this new land. And this was no easy task. So Meriwether Lewis needed a partner. And so for his partner, he chose his friend William Clark. And together they created the Corps of Discovery. And what this was is it was just a group of men that they specifically chose based off of their skills, their enthusiasm, their dedication, and how hardworking they are to be a part of the Corps of Discovery and to discover what was in this new land that we had just bought. So when the journey begins, the men set sail up the Missouri to begin their journey and discoveries. And what they found was these Indian nations, and Lewis and Clark traded with the Indians and began to build relationships with them, which was exactly what we wanted at the time. But the problem was is that there was this big communication barrier, and oftentimes the Indians spoke a different language than what Lewis and Clark would speak. So they needed an interpreter. And so this is when they met and hired Sacagawea to interpret for them and to keep peace between the Indians along their journey. And she ended up saving them quite a few times to keep them safe. So along the journey, it wasn't easy. They ran into storms and mean Indians. And so in these storms, a lot of the men in Corps of Discovery, they got frostbite. Some of them ended up dying because they got sick. And then sometimes they would get into fights with some Indians. And so this is where Sacagawea came into play, because she helped keep the peace. And she was able to interpret and say, no, these men are kind. They're just trying to see what's over here. And they're trying to learn and discover and create maps. And so as their journey continued, they finally reached the ocean, which was kind of the end point of their voyage. So the goal was to find the ocean, to find what was over there. And so that kind of marks the edge of their discovery when they kind of turned back and made their journey back home. But what was really interesting and the best part about this was that these men, they traveled over 7,000 miles on foot. It took 3 years to accomplish this. They had many difficulties. They ran into bad weather. They ran into times where they were hungry and they had to find food, and they didn't have any food or water to eat. They needed help from the Indians. And one of the biggest things that we've gained from the Lewis and Clark expeditions is that these men explored and mapped the new land. And these maps are maps that we still look at today. We still go off of these maps and we can see that what they did is true, that the waterfalls that they found were really where they said they were. The animals and plants that they found are true, and they're animals and plants that we may eat today. Or some of these discoveries that they made, it really made this transformation where we could begin the westward expansion, and new Americans could start growing and moving west and using this land because we can live there. And so it really added a great time where we realized that we can move and we can discover new things, which is very exciting.